The financial press is hyperventilating. The rumor mill says the SpaceX IPO is imminent, with a target valuation of $1.5 trillion. Wall Street is calling it the liquidity event of the decade. They're comparing it to Saudi Aramco. They're running spreadsheets on rural internet subscribers in Montana. They're calculating the average revenue per user of households in Brazil. They're looking at the wrong thing. If you think the Starlink is an internet company, you're missing the trade. Because while analysts looking at the S1 filing, SpaceX executed a silent maneuver in orbit that tells the real story. In early January, SpaceX quietly began lowering 4,400 satellites from the standard 550-kilometer shell down to 480 km. They claim it was for space safety and to reduce debris. Do not believe the press release. To a layman, a 70 km is just a rounding error. To a scientist, it is a weapon. At 480 km, atmosphere is exponentially denser. The drag is massive. By occupying this shell, Elon Musk isn't just improving its service. He's building a physics moat that physically bankrupts anyone who tries to follow him. This isn't an IPO. This is the hostile takeover of the Earth's atmosphere. And it is the final piece of AI God ecosystem that Tesla and XAI are building. Welcome to Growth. I'm Sean, your guide to money and the frontier of innovation. In business, we talk about moats. Usually, that means brand loyalty or a series of patents. In orbit, a moat is defined by one equation: atmospheric drag. Here's the brutal reality of the 480 km shell. This is what we call VLEO, very low Earth orbit. The air density here is high enough that it acts like sandpaper. If you park a satellite here, it wants to die. It wants to fall out of the sky. To stay up, you need constant, efficient propulsion. This creates a game that only SpaceX can play. Why? Because Starlink satellites are IKEA of space. They are mass-produced. They are cheap. SpaceX actually wants them to burn up every 5 years so that they can upgrade the tech stack. But look at the competition. Amazon's Project Kuiper, European constellations. They're building Ferraris. They're heavy, expensive, and designed to last 15 years to amortize the cost. If Amazon tries to enter the 480 km shell to match Starlink's performance, their expensive satellites will burn up before they can ever turn a profit. The laws of thermodynamics literally burn their balance sheet. But if they stay higher, say at 1,000 km to avoid the drag, they lose the speed war. The speed of light is fixed. Distance is latency. By occupying the lowest viable shell, Starlink has captured the high-frequency layer of the planet. They have occupied the only real estate where real-time control of robots is physically possible. And that brings us to the real reason for the $1.5 trillion valuation. Wall Street thinks Starlink is telco. They think it competes with AT&T. Starlink is not a telco. It is the nervous system of the machine god. Think about the ecosystem Elon has built. Tesla builds bodies, XAI builds the brain, and SpaceX builds the transport. A brain is useless if it is disconnected from the body. If a Tesla Optimus robot in a factory in Vietnam needs an update based on a new training run from a data center in Texas, how does that data move? Fiber optics? Too slow to deploy. 5G? Too short range. Starlink is the only high bandwidth, low latency pipe that covers every inch of the Earth. The 480-kilometer shell reduces the latency to 20 milliseconds. That is the speed of human thought. This is the hidden revenue model. In 2030, you won't just pay for Starlink for your house. Every Tesla robotaxi will pay a monthly connectivity tax to Starlink. Every Optimus robot will pay a subscription to stay connected to XAI cloud. Humans are capped. There are only 8 billion of us, and half of us cannot afford $100 a month. But robots? By 2035, there could be 10 billion humanoid agents. If each one pays Starlink $10 a month for the neural links to the cloud, that is $1.2 trillion a year in pure margin. The IPO isn't valuing an internet service provider. It is valuing the utility company for artificial intelligence. Buying Starlink stock is betting that the future runs on autonomous labor and Starlink owns the toll road. But there's a darker floor to this valuation. If the half value is autonomy tax, the other half is survival. This is Starshield. While Starlink is for you and me, Starshield is the militarized version. It is already under contract with the US government. It creates a sentient shield around the Earth. In modern warfare, tanks and aircraft carriers are just big targets. The future is drone swarms. Thousands of chipped autonomous drones acting as one. Who coordinates them? You cannot run a drone swarm on a legacy satellite that has 500 milliseconds of lag. You need the 20 milliseconds latency of the 480-kilometer shell. The Pentagon knows this. They have realized that Starlink is not just a vendor. It is a strategic dependency. If Starlink goes dark, the US military goes blind. This is why China is terrified. They are rushing to launch Guowang, a project of 13,000 satellites, because they know that they cannot let Elon Musk control the Internet of War. China is even filing for the retrograde orbits, flying east to west against the flow of traffic. In physics, if you hit a satellite head-on, the impact speed is 15 km per second. That is a kinetic weapon. China is building a shotgun to put to the head of the American economy. And that exact geopolitical risk makes Starlink too big to fail. The US government must back it. That 1.5 trillion valuation, it includes national security premium. So, let's strip away the hype. We are looking at the company priced for perfection in an imperfect world. A $1.5 trillion valuation demands that everything goes right. But there is a massive bear case that nobody is pricing in: sovereignty. Starlink is currently operating in a gray zone. But what happens when the EU or India or Brazil decides that they don't want an American billionaire controlling their information infrastructure? We are already seeing the regulatory walls go up. If Starlink gets banned from Global South, the total addressable market collapses overnight. You aren't just betting on physics. You're betting that Elon Musk can outmaneuver the regulatory state of 100 different nations. However, if you look at the phase transition we are entering, the alternative may be irrelevant. We are moving from human economy to agentic AI economy. The legacy telcos like AT&T, Verizon are fighting for the crumbs of the human market. SpaceX is building railroad for the machine market. In the 19th century, the industrialists didn't care if you are shipping coal or cattle. They just owned the rails. Starlink is railroad for the 21st century intelligence. It transports the weight of the global brain. So here's the question for you. Is Starlink an overhyped utility company destined to be regulated into boredom? Or is it the first true monopoly of the solar system? I want to hear your take, bull or bear, in the comments below. This was Sean from BuySpark. If you enjoyed the video, press like, subscribe, and hype does matter. And if you want the full breakdown of the video with full references, subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you for watching. Until next time.